Your luck is run out.
Nina Williams is a master of the lethal arts and a professional killer known by the alias of Silent Assassin. In the story of Tekken 8, Kazuya recruits Nina as his direct subordinate and grants her the title of Commander of the G Corporation forces. This blonde bombshell is the only female character to be in every game in the Tekken franchise, and even has her own game called Death by Degrees. In 2008, she was voted to be the hottest female fighting character in a poll by Guinness World Records. As her appearance has evolved over the series, so has her moveset. It's fair to say that she has a lot of new and exciting potential in Tekken 8, while still keeping hold of her identity. She is quick and calculated, aiming to catch the opponent by surprise, then overwhelm them before they know what's happened. With a vast number of tools at her disposal, including guns, she gives the player the opportunity to express themselves and play in a way that suits them. What are her strengths? Nina has a tool to cover any situation, sometimes multiple. She has strong close-range pressure, including good mids and lows, staggering strings, frame advantage, and some great homing tools to stop the opponent from stepping. Her damage output is some of the best in the game. The option of Hayashida step gives her movement in a way that no other character has, and with all of this put together, she's versatile to be played in any manner to a decent level. What are her weaknesses? As her tools are mostly strong in a situational manner, to make the most of the character you need to have a good understanding of your opponent's character, but also an understanding of the opponent and their tendencies. If your game is focused entirely on getting in close, you'll notice that she has a lot of difficulty approaching the opponent. When played at a high level, her execution demands are quite high, and you'll find that her typical pressure tools and many of her combos can be a bit more difficult to input than some other characters. Also, sometimes it feels like the stars need to be perfectly aligned for you to perfectly optimize Nina and make the most of some situations. A lot of players are put off using Nina because they've heard that she's too hard. This character actually has a pretty low entry level, but a high skill ceiling. At the end of the day, you should just play the character that you like. If you're having fun, learning the game won't feel like a chore. If you've played Nina in Tekken 7, you'll notice that a lot of what you did in that game will still work. But not everything. To make the most of Nina in Tekken 8, you need to learn what's new, what's different, and how to put everything together as the Silent Assassin. As a mid-poke, you can't go wrong with down forward 1. It has a number of extensions, but you're best using down forward 1 or down forward 1-2 at most, unless you think the opponent will press into the situation. Down forward 1 on its own can be used as a fast-paced mind game, and down forward 1-2 to slow down the pace of the match. For both, you aim to confirm, hit or block. On hit, you continue your pressure, and on block, you bait a reactive response to evade and counter, or see them freeze and continue your pressure. This is a great mid-poke to use close range to start and continue your pressure. Down forward 3 is a little slower, but the range allows a mind game that isn't point blank, as your opponents will be trying to force. Try to confirm the follow-up based on your opponent's actions, as doing them without confirming is risky. If you do confirm, you're now up close and at advantage. The down forward 3 works well to pester, as many moves to retaliate or attempt to punish can whiff, so be ready. Due to the range and the pushback, this move is great for playing a bit of a spacing game with the opponent. And again, while the extensions can be risky, you do have a mid option, and if you delay the down forward 3-2, or if at least you catch the second hit as a counter hit, you can get a full launch on the opponent. But if you don't want to complete the string, or try and do the back sway into quarter circle back 4, you're still plus 12 to get a good amount of damage. Key to juggles, but also great in general. This move has a good hitbox and tracks to Nina's left, her weak side. The extensions can be highly rewarding, with the guns being a duckable on block but guaranteed follow up on hit, and the mid option giving a free grounded hit. But for less risk, the first hit on its own gives you time to identify if it hits or not, and then act accordingly afterwards. A rather generic tool, but it has extensions if you feel like gambling. On its own, it's a fast poke with good advantage on hit. If blocked, they have to contest with an extension, and with spacing you can bait moves to whiff punish. This shouldn't be overlooked as part of Nina's mind game and pressure game. As a power mid, we're not talking about a launcher here. 1+4 does a good chunk of damage while tracking to Nina's right, typically her strong side. If you hit the opponent, they're forced into a crouching position, limiting their options. This move easily gives you time to confirm a hit and continue offense. Otherwise, you can still attempt to evade some options at -5. This move is a heat engager, so you already know it's going to be good on hit. It's safe on block, but if you choose to commit to a heat dash from it during heat, you're now plus on block, or it's game over on hit. Quarter circle forward 2 tracks to Nina's left, what is considered her weak side. However, at -8 on block, you're going to have to defend if it's blocked, or make a very big read. For a low, this move is incredible. It gets you in while avoiding highs and gives a pressure mind game afterwards, with Nina being in a crouching position. There is a mid extension that can't be interrupted, and if they try, they're launched. Use this low to pester the opponent to no end, as long as they're not challenging with a big mid regularly. If you get the hit, you can visually see if it's a counter hit. In general though, make sure you act afterwards based on the opponent's habits. For example, while standing 4 beating many things, stay ducking to beat highs, and while standing 2 to beat stepping or walking. This low may not have any high evasion, and it's a bit more punishable than down 2, but it gives you consistent frame advantage on hit. Use this low when you're not afraid of your opponent's highs, and when you want to maintain frame advantage to continue your pressure. This low also gives a big reward on counter hit, including a mind game where you could get a big launch. Try to be aware of your opponent's highs they can use, and also their options to punish, as this will help skew the risk reward. 12 frame homing attack, which you can even counter hit confirm for huge damage in a wall splat. The only catch here is that it's a high. Also, Yoshimitsu can flash it on block. This is an easy, quick check for opponents who like to try and sidestep your offense, and can also allow you to continue pressure at +5 with the extension or by a sidestep cancel. Three plus 4 has got great range, but it's a bit slower than back 2-2, working better at a range where your opponent's trying to keep you away. This move can be very effective near the wall if the opponent's trying to step away, as it will splat on normal hit. While the move is -10 on block, a lot of the time many characters can't reach to punish it, so used as a mid-range tool, this can be effective for baiting a whiff even at -10. You can cancel it into a sway for continued pressure on hit, but on block, this will be launched unless you use a while standing 1+2 power crush. A decently fast, plus on block, single hit counter hit launcher. This move is fantastic. The pushback makes it less of a pressure tool though, and more of a counter hit tool, unless you're near the wall. The hard part is conditioning the opponent not to duck, and getting a feel for the timing to get a counter hit launch, though Nina can make some frame traps to help. If you get a counter hit launch with this move and follow up accordingly, the opponent is either KO'd or one guess away. Back +4 is a slightly faster option, but without the frame advantage. In fact, it's -9 on block. This means it's a call out, but you can't do much if they block. It does give an easier confirm window, have an easier input, and allow you to perform a back 1+4 into whatever combo route you're normally comfortable with. The scaling on the follow-up prevents the damage output from being too absurd here. Down forward 2 is a 15 frame launcher which is safe on block. The biggest downsides are that it doesn't launch a crouching opponent on normal hit, and its range leaves much to be desired. This launcher is fine as a 15 frame punisher, but generally better as a tool to challenge the opponent's approach or gaps in their pressure. Again, be mindful of moves with lots of pushback, because even if they're -15 or higher, down forward 2 may not reach. Back 1+4 is a 15 frame launcher which is also -15 on block. I'd suggest using this move when you know it's going to hit, occasionally on opponents who can't launch it, and sparingly on opponents that can launch it. This move will launch opponents standing or crouching and can deal extremely high damage with the right follow-ups. Also, it has decent reach for a 15 frame launcher. Back 3+4 1+2 is a quick whiff punish option dealing decent damage. It's often not the most rewarding whiff punisher, but it has great range and its speed allows for some time to confirm. Be wary of it being ducked though. Down back 3+4 is highly rewarding as a whiff punisher, but if you're too slow, you'll pay for it. This move has great range and leads to some of Nina's highest damage normal hit combos. One of the few downsides is that it cannot be performed during a backsway. Though at the cost of slowing down the move, you can sidestep cancel the backsway to perform it. Sidestep 1 cancels are a daunting concept for many, but they really do amplify Nina's up close pressure. Even so, you need to be mindful of the range of both the sidestep 1 and whatever you perform after it. Sidestep 1 pressure becomes a lot scarier near the wall when the opponent can't backdash any follow-up options, and this is a good opportunity for you to use it. Much of the time, you need to have an understanding of what your opponent is likely to do, then choose if you'll attempt a low mid 50-50 of variable risk, a counter hit tool, or simply wait. While running 1+2 is an overwhelming pressure tool, giving you good advantage on block and dealing recoverable damage. It's also a heat engager, so you know that it's incredible on hit. If you heat dash, that's most of their life gone with the right combo. You can use while running 1+2 to set up frame traps or begin any kind of offense. Just be mindful that it can be floated during its startup. Also, if you're not careful with your timing of the move, it can be stepped to either direction. Forward 1+2, or while standing 1+2, is Nina's main power crush. Being able to perform it from standing and crouching is a good advantage over many characters. Additionally, it's a mid and a heat engager, resulting in a great situation on hit. On block, this move is -14, and so it's far from risk-free. If you feel the need to use an attack to defend yourself, it's an alright option though. 2+3 is Heat Burst, a universal option. It can only be used if you have heat available, but is lower risk and actually gives you advantage by using it most of the time. Limited use and lower reward are drawbacks, but the lower risk than forward 1+2 makes it a good defensive option. Punishment refers to situations where you are guaranteed to hit a move on an opponent due to their actions. such as you blocking a move with enough recovery to make it unsafe, or perhaps a move missing or whiffing, allowing the person to be attacked before they have recovered. At 10 frames, 1-4 is the best for damage, however 1-2 is your best option for ongoing pressure. Do be aware of your opponent's actions though, as some characters may be able to counter the offense afterwards. At 11 frames, down back 1+2 is the obvious choice. This will push you into heat, but it has amazing range and can wall splat. Or you can use it as a heat dash for huge damage. At 12 frames, back 1-4 is your best option for high damage and good frame advantage. Back +2-2 is also a good option, just for different pressure, but it is slightly less damage and slightly less advantage. At 13 frames, you generally stick to the 12 frame punish, but down forward 1-2 will work in situations where the opponent recovers crouching. You can also use it to punish some situations or to check some situations where the 12 frame won't work. And part of this is because you can forward sway from it. At 14 frames, back 3+4, 1+2 is the best option for raw damage. In heat it does even more damage too, but it gives you no Oki, unless you hit a wall. Forward 3 is another good option. While it does less damage at face value, it does give you a free fully charged forward 1+2, doing 9 recoverable damage on block or hitting. At 15 frames, back 1+4 is the obvious option. As long as you know it's going to hit, this is amazing reward. It has better reach than down forward 2, and down forward 2 won't work in a lot of situations where back 1+4 will. At 18 frames, down back 3+4 is the best option for damage and range at face value. It has amazing range, but the axis can affect some of the combo options after. Up forward 2-1 is slightly less damage, but you can get a similar reward, and it will give you more time to confirm and change the axis. However, up forward 4 won't work after this on most characters. For 11 frame crouching, while standing 4 is your only option. Be aware of the pushback and how it can limit your options afterwards though. For 13 frame crouch and punish, while standing 1+2 is the best option at face value. In heat it does absurd damage and can wall splat from quite far too. However, if you're in a neutral situation, while standing 3 can sometimes be a better option, forcing them to a 50-50 that can net you as much as 50 damage and remove all their recoverable life. But of course, if they guess correctly in the 50-50, you only deal 25 damage. For a 15 frame crouching punish, while standing 2 is your option. Do be aware it doesn't always have the best range. For an 18 frame crouching punish, it's pretty much the same as 18 frame standing punish, while standing 3+4 instead of down back 3+4, or up forward 2-1. The situation is exactly the same for the follow-ups too. Nina has a few good options if you catch them back-turned. 1-2-1, 1+2 works on everyone and does insane damage in heat, but it does have short reach and isn't the highest reward. 4-4, 3+4 gives a free follow-up on hit, generally a forward 1+2. If they try and turn around in any way, you can confirm and use a heat burst to continue the combo. Most characters cannot avoid this string, but some can. But down forward 3-2-3 is the highest reward with an outright launch. It's a long range mid which is good, but more characters have a way to avoid the launch or mitigate the damage. Whiff punishment depends on your own reaction times and what your opponent does too. Back 3+4 is a decent option, and you can do it out of backsway, but it's not the highest reward. Down back 3+4 is an amazing option but can't be done out of backsway, but if you do it too early it will cause a tornado, and lay to continue the combo, unlike many other options you might use. Up forward 2-1 has the advantage of being performable from backsway, but if you perform it too early, you can confirm a float from the up forward 2, but it's quite hard. Combos, or as they're often called juggles in Tekken, get quite complicated quite fast. So let's try and simplify it by breaking down a combo into different categories. A launch is consistently at the start, and that's what makes the opponent airborne. Filler is the fill in anywhere to get damage and to extend the juggle. This can actually be performed anywhere in a juggle after the launcher, so it doesn't have to be straight after. A combo extender is a move with an inbuilt mechanic to help extend the combo, such as using a tornado, or a heat burst, or a heat dash. Keep in mind that a heat dash can also be a launcher if used outside of a juggle. An ender may be used for big damage, to set up Oki, or to provide wall carry. If you're lucky, you might actually find an option that covers all three of these options at the same time. Lastly, we have interactables. This is anything you could interact with on the stage or during the juggle that can also help extend it, such as wall hits, floor breaks. You get the idea. To prevent combo damage from getting too high, there is scaling involved. After the launch, successive hits will do less and less damage down to 30%. Some standing attacks will also cause scaling, and using an interactable will cause scaling as well. Using a heat move in a combo, such as a heat burst or a heat dash, will cause additional scaling for the rest of the combo. If you combine that with something like a wall break, this will cause extreme scaling to the level where many of your hits will only be doing 1 damage eventually. While a heat burst will cause scaling for follow-up hits, it doesn't count as one of the hits. Meanwhile, a heat dash does, but it will reduce the pushback on hits following it. When it comes to launches, Nina has plenty. On normal hit, you've got things like down forward 2, back 1 plus 4, down back 3 plus 4, up forward 1, up forward 2 1, up back 1, while standing 2, while standing 3 plus 4, side step 2, side step 1 plus 2, quarter circle back 4, and then moves in heat as well. In counter hit, you have 1 2 4, 1 2 1 plus 2, 1 4, 4 3, 4 4, 4 4 4, 4 2 1 3, 4 2 1 4, forward 3, down forward 3 2 3, down forward 3 1 2, down 2 2, down back 2, down back 4 3, back. Oh no, I ran out of time. You get the idea. Also moves that don't exactly launch but give a free follow-up hit. Here are some suggested follow-ups for them. Due to the aforementioned scaling, you generally want to be doing higher damage hits as filler near the start of the combo. As you continue the combo and the scaling makes you do less damage, high damage options as filler are still valuable, but you want to pick things that allow you further extensions and to continue the combo for longer. For combo extenders, you generally want to use the moves that cause tornado, and you want to find the ones that fit well into the combos you're trying to do. I generally select quarter circle back 4 or down back 3 plus 4. You also have heat options to extend combos, but remember, because they add scaling, you want to use them later. For an ender, you want to find an option that deals big damage, sets up Oki, or provides wall carry, preferably multiple options at once. Make sure you choose the one that's relevant for the situation, such as getting the opponent to the wall, KOing them, or setting up for a strong mix-up. Interactables are where things get a bit messy. A wall hit is literally hitting a wall, allowing attacks until they fall to the ground. You can perform combo extenders at the wall, and the more hits before the combo extender, the shorter the follow-up. Just like with scaling, a heat burst doesn't count as a hit on the wall, but a heat dash will. So make sure you're familiar with this when you're trying to extend your combo using heat. Certain attacks can cause a wall to break, and some walls might take 2 hits to break. Additionally, you could break a balcony on some stages. You can cause a wall blast, which sends the opponent bouncing back near the wall, or a wall bound, which sends them bouncing to the other side of you. Certain moves can also floor break, and some floors might take 2 hits to break. A heat smash will always do it though if it has the floor break property. And lastly, a move with the floor break property could also cause a floor blast, exploding them upward for a continued combo. Okay, now that you understand how combos can work in Tekken 8, here are a few suggested combo routes you could do. These first examples are far from the best, but they follow the general formula that we've been discussing, and you can expand on them over time. If you're starting out in the game, it's better to know some combos that you can perform instead of constantly missing out on a good chunk of damage. While it isn't necessary for all combos, please note that it's generally expected that you'll dash in to get closer to the opponent after performing a combo extender with the tornado effect. This won't be mentioned in the combo notation, but it is a common cause for newer players having trouble with combos. Also, you may be expected to dash toward an opponent if they hit a wall, which won't be in the notation. Most of the time, other than those examples, a dash will be included in the notation. Compared to a lot of other characters in this game, Nina's combos can seem quite daunting. Please remember, you don't need to pick the hardest combos or the highest damaging combos. It's far more important that you're consistent with what you do. That being said, if you get satisfaction out of performing the more challenging combos, go for them, learn them, get familiar with them. But no one's saying you have to do them. The difference between a moderate difficulty combo and a high difficulty combo is often just a few points of damage. If that damage is enough to win the game, then there's a point to it. However, you need to weigh the decision about the risk of dropping the combo. Also, as Nina's combo damage is high, you might find that it takes 2 moderate difficulty combos to KO an opponent, and also 2 high difficulty combos to KO the opponent, so the extra effort can seem quite irrelevant. A lot of the time, what's more important is being able to adapt and adjust your combos. Having a malleable combo route and a good awareness of your surroundings will quickly become far more important than being able to perform the hardest combos. You'll often find that when you launch an opponent, they're not perfectly on axis, and some of the combos demonstrated here won't work without the correct positioning. While standing +1 butterfly combos are a good example of this, but another common one is the up forward +3 mid combo. Off axis, the up forward +3 is often unreliable as a combo filler, and you're better replacing it with either a quarter circle forward +1 or a down forward +1, depending on the launcher and on the combo route you're doing. Another thing you need to consider is your opponent's character. Some combos are easier to perform on certain characters. The while standing +1 butterflies, for example, are much easier to perform on larger characters, with the axis not even being a factor if you're versing bears. Meanwhile, smaller characters like Xiao Yu or Reina will require a more accurate axis for butterflies and make them more difficult to perform. Some combo routes will only work on larger characters, such as doing the while standing +1 butterfly into the down back 3+4 geyser cannon, which will only work on the bears. Or many wall hit enders, including the down forward +3-2, 1-2, 1+2, which will work on Jack and the bears, but no other characters. The poor bears though, on the wall, you can actually hit them with a tornado move and then go into a sidestep +1, cancelled into a sidestep +1, cancelled into a down forward 3-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1+2 for huge damage. It was discussed that combo enders are used to serve a few different purposes: deal big damage, set up Oki, or provide wall carry. The quarter circle forward +4, 3, 1+2 is high damage, but generally poor Oki and wall carry, unless you're approaching a breakable wall. Other enders being demonstrated may look like a reduction in damage, and this is often to show how you could carry the opponent to the wall, or to allow better Oki. This will be discussed in greater detail during the Okizeme section of this guide. Nina is fortunate to be able to utilise heat well in her combos. If you're willing to spend all of your heat in a single combo, you can quite easily increase the damage output by a significant margin. Heat burst and heat dashes can also be used to help improve wall carry, or to give you an opportunity to adjust your alignment for the remainder of the combo. And sometimes, it can be smart not to use your heat to end a combo, as you may be able to deal comparable damage, then still have heat to continue your offense afterwards. And having heat available to use a heat dash to start a combo is a huge threat. If you are able to perform a combo that takes your opponent to the wall, or another interactable, this should be used with the goal to improve your damage and generally give you a more advantageous situation afterward. You want to have a good understanding of how to utilize the interactable, as well as appropriate moves that you can use both before and after. You want to deal as much damage as possible and use as few resources as possible early on. Remember that using interactables will increase scaling, so you often want to use them and heat later in a combo if possible. When it comes to interactables, most of the time you'll be limited on how many you can use in a single combo. For example, you cannot use a breakable wall and a breakable floor in the same combo. In fact, you can only use one floor interactable per combo, while you can use a number of wall interactables. This means that you could use a wall break, then a balcony break, then reach a wall in a single combo.
It seems you're very well informed. My job with G Corporation is finished. I'm done here.
Okizeme is a term used in fighting games which refers to pressuring the opponent while they're getting up after being knocked down. If you knock your opponent down, you generally have the upper hand. A big reason for this is that the opponent's options are significantly limited when they're grounded. Discussing each individual situation could take hours and hours, and so we're only going to look at a few situations, mostly common ones. Certain moves can limit the opponent's wake-up options even further. For example, if you hit an airborne opponent with a down back 2 or a quarter circle forward 1, they cannot tech roll left. Any tech roll input will make them tech roll to the right. The number of hits you perform in a juggle will affect how far the opponent's pushed back. However, this doesn't have as much significance when it comes to down back 2, so we're going to look at some situations with down back 2. And this is with the assumption that the opponent is going to try and tech roll. If they tech roll and then stand block, you can hit them with your Evil Mist, the Unbreakable Mist move, or your Betrayer, Unbreakable Throw Chain Grab starter. Otherwise, you can just dash into sidestep 1 pressure. You could also use a well-timed wall running 3-3 to cross them up. However, be careful because if they don't tech roll this, you can end up quite vulnerable. Quarter circle forward 2 is a common combo ender. Depending on the number of hits, it will send them further away and can function as wall carry. However, if you don't hit the wall, it often can give you enough advantage for you to run up and continue some pressure, such as with a sidestep 1. Again, because the number of hits affects how far they go flying, you may have to dash further and the opponent may be able to wake up in time to attack you before the sidestep 1, so do be cautious here. You can use sidestep 1 into quarter circle forward 2 as a sidestep 1 forward 2, and it will give you slightly more advantage. Hitting an opponent with 1+4 while they're airborne only allows them to back quick roll. If they don't back quick roll, then you get a guaranteed hit. I'd suggest using forward 1+2 because if they do back quick roll, they still have to block it. And this opens up the mind game of you doing the charged version to do more chip damage and get some frame advantage. If you hit a standing opponent with back 3-4, they are knocked down into a face-up feed-away position. If you do a small dash into a while standing 3+4, done as quarter circle forward neutral 3+4, this will hit the opponent with anything they do except for a sidewall right. And many of the things that they do can result in you getting a free launch. Similarly, a counter hit down back 3 will leave the opponent in a face down feet toward position. Doing a while standing 3+4 as quarter circle forward 3+4 with no dash will give you a very similar situation to the back 3-4. However, the side roll right cannot avoid this. If you expect the opponent to tech roll to the left, An up forward 3 on a standing opponent, or a while standing 1 on an airborne opponent, can allow you to do a directional cross-up using a run-in quarter circle forward 4. This is risky, but still a good way to catch the unexpected opponent. If certain moves hit a grounded opponent, it can limit their options and force them so they can only tech roll left or right, and nothing else. While standing 3+4 and quarter circle forward 2 would be the main options Nina would use, but she does have others. Quarter circle forward 2 is the example I'm going to use here because it does more damage and gives you slightly better advantage, 1 frame better I believe. As a simple option, and to try and make your opponent start ducking on wake up, you can dash into a down 2. Forward 1+2 will also hit if they don't tech roll, but becomes risky if they do tech roll either way. What you can do instead though is you could do a fully charged forward 1+2, and regardless of what you do, the opponent is forced to block this. One trick here though is you need to make sure you do a small dash into the forward 1+2, because if you don't do the dash and the opponent wakes up backwards, the move will whiff and you will be very, very launch punishable. Another option, especially if you think they're going to duck, is doing a small dash into a pause forward 4. This will catch anything they do except stay grounded, and a lot of the time it'll hit on the second active frame, giving you an extra frame of advantage to continue your pressure. At the wall, forward 1+2 and strings into the blonde bomb ender are very commonly seen. Sidestep 1 immediately after this is a very good option to use, and I'd suggest doing a sidestep left as it covers more options for you. This can hit them on their wake up, but the main intention of this is to allow you to continue your pressure. If the move whiffs, not a big deal as you've got such good recovery on that move, you can still continue pressure really. Just like at mid-screen, ending in a 1+4 limits their options. However now, you don't have to worry about them rolling back and your move missing. If they don't back quick roll, any grounded hit will hit them, so you take your pick. If they are back quick rolling, you can use these options, the same ones you use to hit grounded, to mix them up. You could just use this situation to get frame advantage if you like too. Do be mindful that some things will still whiff, like the Betrayer. If you know they're going to tech roll a certain way and you get an off-axis wall hit, you can get some very sneaky stuff, like the down back 3+4 there, or a quarter circle forward 4, depending on which way they tech roll. You don't need to be off-axis for this, but the while standing 1 ender can also set up some Betrayer Oki if they tech roll. Or you can use a quarter circle back into a forward 1+2 to get a very quick fully charged blonde bombshell. This is for good frame advantage and to hit them if they do stay grounded. Now, if you like to gamble or make your opponent really freak out, you can use a key charge setup at the wall. Doing this into a forward 1+2 will hit them with most options they do. However, if they do stand up with a tech roll left or right, they will take the recoverable life damage from this move, and you'll be at +8 key charged right by the wall, allowing you to mix them up with either a down forward 3 or a down 3 string, both of which can cause a wall splat and pretty much win you the game. This is a very risky option still, because if you do commit to these strings, they can duck the second hit of both of them if they're right. Or they can just block the whole string, and because you're key charged, they can get a much higher punish than they normally could. Now, if you want to gamble, and you want things to be a little bit more in your favour, you can use heat to do these key charge setups as well. However, if you do it in this situation, you'll need to go straight into the low or mid 50-50. better option, however, is using the quarter circle forward 2 into a heat dash. If they wake up with a tech roll, or stand up or wake up backward, they're forced into a 50-50 between your low or your mid. But a lot of opponents are going to be expecting this, so they might either try staying grounded or doing a different wake up option. And if they do anything else, you can actually get a down back 4-3 into a big combo. This isn't without flaws though, and wake up kicks will beat this. However, this will make the key charge go away so you can block anything afterwards, and you still have heat. Not all throws give good Oki, but Nina has many that do. Down forward 2+4 actually gives a free forward foot 3, nothing they can do. But if they stand up, you could get a back turn launch. Down forward 1+3 leaves them in a similar position, but Nina has less advantage, so nothing guaranteed. The spacing also limits some of her options, but a lot of things still work. As well as down forward 1+3, a lot of other throws and attack reversals leave the opponent in a face-up feed away position at either -1 or 0, allowing Nina to get some okay Oki, but once again nothing guaranteed. Reversing a right punch leaves them face down side lying with a few more options, but all the ones for the face-up feed away situation also work for this. Again, remember, down forward 1+3 leaves them a little further away, so not all of the same options work. Namely down forward 1-2, 1+2. If they stand up you get some nasty things, but that's not very common. A forward 1+2 won't work here, but pretty much anything else they do, a forward 1+2 will hit in this situation. The only exception being if they stay grounded. So if they stand up or stay grounded, don't forward 1+2. The following throws and reversals leave the opponent in a face-up feed-away position at -3. Similar to the punches, reversing a right kick actually leaves them in a sideline position, but the Oki still applies here. Also, keep in mind that everything from the face-up feed away Oki from before also works here, so forward 1+2 is still a good option. Down back 4-3, however, if you time it right, will beat pretty much everything they can do. It won't always be high reward, but you can get a good launch from it, or at least get a small hit guaranteed. This is but a small sample of the Okizeme that Nina can do in Tekken 8. I encourage you to explore your options and test for yourself what is possible. Sidestep 1 cancels, or snake shot cancels, are a key part of Nina's rushdown, and one of the main things that people know Nina for doing in Tekken. Sidestep 1 on its own isn't great, but when you use the cancels, forward or back, you get frame advantage on both block and hit to continue your offense. If you cancel with a forward sway, Nina's put into an uncancelable forward sway. If you cancel with a back sway, she can actually cancel the back sway to do anything she wants. The back sway cancels are quite tricky, and it takes a lot of practice to get the timing down. You can use simple display to help identify the timing. You can cancel the back sway with either an up or an up back. Up will put Nina in a sidestep, while up back will put her into a neutral position. There is no change to the frame advantage depending on which one you do. In both, at best you can be +9 on block. If you're getting the misinput of a backflip, it means you're cancelling by inputting up then up back. The best practice is to cancel the up and back at the same time, but while you're getting used to it, try to focus on releasing the back first and then the up afterwards. While standing 1 or butterflies are the most well recognised part of Nina's combos since they were first introduced in Tekken 6. They provide great damage and wall carry, but can be tough to perform. They still play a key role in combos in Tekken 8, but most of the time you won't be needing to do more than 2 or 3 in a combo. There are many ways to input a while standing 1 instantly. The most common one is down forward neutral 1 or quarter circle forward neutral 1. But you can do a quarter circle forward or a down forward into either neutral or any direction except forward to make it work. While the input may seem tricky, the hardest part is actually the timing. You cannot buffer the input at all, and you need to make sure that the motion is started after Nina's recovered from the previous move. As well as the timing and the input, you need to make sure that you're slightly off axis to the right, otherwise they won't link. You can use certain moves to put Nina off axis, such as down forward 3-2 side step cancels, micro steps, and up forward 4. As you can't perform the motion during the recovery of the previous move. If you do it too early, you'll often get the move of the final input you performed, such as a neutral 1 or an up forward 1. Also, if you miss part of the motion, this can happen too. You can start by performing them out of combos, but I think doing the combos you actually want to perform is a good way to practice. This will help improve your muscle memory and get you ready for doing it in a real match. You could also look for visual or auditory cues to help you with the timing of the butterflies. Performing down forward 3-2 into a down back 2 is new to Tekken 8 due to the introduction of down forward 3-2 into backsway. It has quickly become a core part of Nina's combo game, but does take a bit of practice to get used to. The trick is to cancel down forward 3-2 into a backsway, then immediately do down back 2. As you can perform the backsway by holding down back, you can just hold down back the whole time to do this and time the 2. Simple frame data display will show you the exact time where you can perform the backsway and the 2 if you do a down forward 3-2 on hit. If you perform the backsway, you won't see that window with the simple frame data display. As you get more familiar with it, you'll also see the beginning of Nina's sway, which is the first possible moment that you can press the down back 2. Performing down back 2 into quarter circle forward 4-3-1+2 is a high damage combo ender to maximise damage without using heat. The axis can affect this, and the dash can be very tricky depending on the number of hits you've done. Getting the dash deep enough and performing the quarter circle forward 4 in time is very tough. Thankfully, we can actually buffer this. During the recovery of the down back 2, you can input a forward, quarter circle forward. Then hold the forward after this. Once you see Nina dash, you can start pressing the 4. If the input is done correctly and entirely within the time frame, it will allow you to instantly dash out of the down back 2 and then perform a quarter circle forward 4. If you miss part of the input or if you are too slow, something else will come out, like a forward 4. This is still very tricky to perform, but as they say, practice makes perfect. The Hayashida step is a movement option that's unique to Nina. It is performed by using sidestep cancel to chain successive backsways. This is not a replacement for Korean backdash cancelling, but complements it as an evasive option. While a single backsway and a sidestep backsway can be very valuable in causing evasion, it can have some risk as well. So don't get too predictable with using backsways or multiple backsways as a Hayashida step. Hayashida step is performed as quarter circle back up, continuously, over and over again. There is a timing component with Hayashida step too, and performing it as quickly as possible won't give you the best result. You want to allow most of the backsway to complete before cancelling with a sidestep, then very quickly do another backsway out of the sidestep. Start by performing this slowly, then gradually build up your speed over time. Also, make sure you perform it on both sides. To formulate a game plan, we first need to have an understanding of the game. Fighting games are a push and pull of resources, most significantly the health bars. Your goal is to deplete your opponent's health bar before they deplete yours. In Tekken 8, there is a little bit more of a push and pull as there's also recoverable life. Other resources that you need to keep in mind include heat, rage, stage interactables, and for some characters, they may have an additional resource or power up to be mindful of. Not Nina though. Make sure you're aware of how these resources give and take from the characters and how they affect both your decision making and your opponents. You also need to consider the timer and how this can influence a player's actions. If you have the life lead, there's no reason why you need to run in blind to KO your opponent fast, as there's lots of time to play. Sometimes it's best to keep your distance and make them come to you, and often the player trying to approach is the one taking the bigger risk. With interactables, also consider how accessible they are to you and your opponent. Some may be able to break the floor easily, others not always. You need to have a good understanding of your own character. Which moves do you have that work at each range? As a basic rule for Nina, people say you want to be as close as possible, or around 2 to 3 backdashes away. If you're trying to play up close, it's smarter to use quicker moves, usually with less reach. Moves like sidestep 1 can allow you to continue pressure on block. Meanwhile, something like a quarter circle forward 2 will leave you needing to block if they don't get hit, though this does change if you can use a heat dash. Make sure you have a general understanding of Nina's frame data to help guide the flow of your moves. A basic mind game can be formulated around simply using her down forward +1 and extensions. On hit, you have advantage to continue your own pressure. On block, you're slightly minus, pushing for your opponent to challenge, though this can allow you to block, step or backsway to create a big opportunity. At the character level of offense, you should be looking at using moves to poke and pester the opponent. Know your options for punishing unsafe moves at various frames, and some general frame traps to catch the opponent out. A situation like 1+4 or down back +3 on hit is a great example, as Nina is +4 and the opponent is left in a crouching position. A down forward +1 will beat any attack they try to use, and a down forward +2 will trade with the fastest attack that they can use. This is of course not factoring in evasive options or armoured moves. Nina is known by many to have a good number of strings. These can have their place in a match, but often come with added risk, such as being duckable, steppable or interruptible. They may in themselves function as frame traps for a bit of risk though. Strings such as down forward +3-2, back +1-4 and down +2-2. These can work to catch an impatient opponent or as a knowledge check, but be careful when overusing them due to the potential risk. It's also important to understand your opponent's character. What range do they want to be in? Is it because it's ideal for them, or because they think it's worse for you? As a generalised defensive rule, it could be a good idea to stay around the tip range of a heat burst, while you try to fight for the positioning that's best for you. It's good to have a general idea of the key moves the opponent is likely to use, and how you should be defending against them. Should you be blocking mid, fuzzy blocking, or committing to blocking lows? Should you be prioritising backdashes, backsways, or sidesteps? Once you have an effective way to defend against these key moves, how heavily can you punish each of these moves? It's fine to perform suboptimal punishment, but if you're just jab punishing a move you could launch, the risk-reward has just been heavily skewed in the opponent's favour. Remember as well, this is a 3D game, so make sure you are sidestepping. I like to categorise sidestepping as both aggressive or defensive. When you're sidestepping aggressively, you're using your own pressure and stepping to try and create a whiff. When you're sidestepping defensively, you're stepping as a measure to cover your options against the opponent's main tools. Now, we really need to amp up the awareness here. This isn't about Nina's tools or your opponent's character's tools specifically, but how you and your opponent interact and play into different situations. Your game plan needs to be forever developing and unfolding as you analyse your opponent and their character during a match. They will be aiming to do the same for you and your character. You need to understand your opponent's tendencies to best counter their play. Against a good opponent, simply knowing your character will only get you so far. You also need to know their character, yourself as a player, and what to look for in an opponent during a match. You need to jump back through what we've discussed in Layer 1 and Layer 2 and see how this could work to your advantage. How are the resources and the characters being used going to influence the player's decisions during a match? And is there anything specific about your opponent's character that you need to be mindful of? If your opponent is attacking you, are you likely to try to challenge? Will you use a jab, a power crush, a rage art? How aware are they of this? Likewise, you might have a habit of doing something like a jab into a down 3-4-3, or simply be overusing the down 3-4-3. If the opponent is aware of this, they can counter it accordingly. Now, let's flip this around. If you're attacking your opponent, how are they reacting? Let's look at a few different aspects of this. Are they challenging when at a disadvantage? Start using some frame traps to catch them. If they're using quick moves, keep the frame traps tight. But if they're challenging with slow moves, play to the opponent instead and capitalise with something highly rewarding. Are they using armour? Well, this depends on the character a lot too. You could use more throws or lows, or block and punish. If the power crushes are high, you could duck on a read and launch. Nina is lucky to also have the ability to sway cancel to evade, so you could use a frame trap of a down forward plus 1-2 and confirm into a sway if they did a high power crush to also evade and launch. Are they trying to sidestep your pressure? Use a move that will track the way they're stepping. This can be a homing move to cover both directions or any move they can't step. You could also delay your timing to realign before attacking. If you see that they're ducking, hoping to evade a high or block a low, you can use the opportunity to use a mid of whatever level risk and reward you think is suitable. If they're frozen like a deer in headlights, continue your pressure. Many players will start hesitating and grow impatient, so have a frame trap ready when you think they might try and get out of the pressure. With these above scenarios, I also need to clarify that while frame data is important to know, it is a foundation to build upon. Just because you're at a frame advantage doesn't mean that the opponent won't be seeking an option other than blocking to get out of the situation. How an opponent acts at any frame advantage or any situation is valuable information, and to effectively rush down an opponent, you will often have to use tools that can be interrupted. Gather information on how they act to figure out how you can do this. What I'm trying to say is, if you're trying to rush down your opponent, the pressure needs to be calculated to be effective. Fatigue and mental stack is another area that we need to think about. Both of you are trying to run through as much information as you possibly can, while also trying to react to the immediate situation. This is exhausting from both perspectives. Nina has a lot of moves and variations she can throw out, and deciding what to use can be tired, and often unnecessary. However, it's also tiring for the opponent to try and keep track of everything. Even if you don't intend to use a move, using it in a safe situation can place it into the opponent's stack of things to look out for. Then through stacking lots of moves and scenarios into the match for the opponent to follow, they'll have a harder time keeping up and struggle to capitalise on opportunities they're given. Talking about missing opportunities, if you miss a big opportunity, don't beat yourself up over a mistake and don't dwell on the situation. There's time to improve on matters later, but in a match, you need to continue to flow with the momentum of the game. Otherwise, you'll be less alert and you'll make more mistakes. With fatigue in mind, many players do rely on their established muscle memory and familiar actions in certain situations to offload the stress. I would consider these actions to be reactive, opposed to responsive, in which they're seeing a situation and how you play around it to shape their decisions. You can also use momentum to overwhelm an opponent and push them into a more reactive playstyle. While the most familiar example of this is the difference between an opponent switching from defensive play to aggressive play, another great example is using either down forward +1 or down forward +1-2 to control the pace of a match up close. Down forward +1-2 is slower and gives them more time to think about how they'll act. If you start a match using down forward +1-2 regularly, but suddenly change to simply doing a down forward +1, now they're being forced to act at a speed that feels against the flow of the match. As they've adjusted to acting to the down forward +1-2, now they're going to feel rushed and more hesitant about the situation, and they're more likely to fall into a reactive style and bad habits. There are many ways that you can change the flow of your gameplay. As said before, simply switching between playing aggressive or defensive. You can delay and change the timing of your moves to prevent falling into a set rhythm of attacking. Likewise, you can change how you're moving to avoid a rhythm. This applies in and out of neutral too. A change in movement selection, such as the down forward +1-2 and the down forward +1, or even using different punishment or Oki. Lastly, you can activate heat. The flow changes entirely when heat is used. Hopefully after all this, you're feeling motivated and eager to play. It's not always easy to put theory into practice though, and I regret to inform you that watching a guide and learning about what you can do isn't going to make you an amazing player right away. There are no shortcuts when it comes to practice. There are, however, good ways and bad ways to make use of your time. Playing a game and jumping straight into ranked mode may help you improve, but you'll improve much faster with a structured, consistent routine, and that's what this section is all about. Let's break down a training routine into 5 categories: movement, technical input, punishment and combos, versus, and review. For the sake of a realistic amount of time, let's set the routine to be completed about 3 or 4 times in a week, and let's say we can allocate 30 minutes to it. I would suggest 5 minutes for movement, technical inputs, punishment and combos, and verses, and then 10 minutes for review. Of course, these timeframes are all set on having 30 minutes for the training. If you have 15 minutes, halve it. If you have 60 minutes, double it. If you specifically feel a need to focus more on a different area, shift the allocation around, or add some additional time to that area. These are guidelines for you to craft your own routine after all. Now, let's talk about what we're doing in each section. Movement is core to Tekken as a game, and it's also one of the hardest things to improve at. Depending on your level of ability, you might want to focus on different things. A newer player might just be getting comfortable with moving backward and forward, while a more experienced player will be working on Korean backdash cancels, Hayashida steps, sidestep implementation, and timing for step blocking. Whatever you're practicing, make sure that you're doing it on both the left and the right side, as you need to be proficient at both, and having a weaker side becomes hugely detrimental at higher levels. Whatever you choose to practice, I suggest performing it 10 times on each side. After completing this, you can repeat it if you feel confident, or move on to some other movement training, until you've completed your 5 minutes. If you take 5 minutes and you haven't completed the first training, move on anyway. Next time, consider whether you should perform something easier for now. There's some overlap here of course, but this is again about improving your execution. You may be doing some form of movement for your technical inputs, and that's fine. But this is also where you can allocate time to things such as sidestep 1 cancels, crouch cancels, instant while running, or even execution relating to other characters if you like. It's about improving your own execution and not the characters. Again, look at a drill and you can perform it 10 times on each side. You can repeat, progress, or regress as needed, but you're doing it for 5 minutes and then stopping. By now, you know Nina's punishment options. This is about looking at other characters and identifying what and how you can punish different tools. I'd suggest picking a character and running through moves that you commonly encounter first. They may not be punishable on block, but you're looking for how they can be dealt with. If it's block punishment, great. It might be ducking, stepping, interrupting, or something else. You might want to use an external resource to find this information, but even if you do, make sure you try it for yourself and confirm, firstly, that it's true, and secondly, that you can do it. If your method of punishment results in a combo, make sure you're performing the full combo as you practice. This is to help improve your muscle memory, while also testing if there are any additional factors at play which might affect the combo, such as access, character positioning, or recovery. With only 5 minutes, you can't do much here, but I'd suggest that you identify a move to work on, learn how to punish it, and punish it fully twice on each side, then move on to the next move. This will allow you to cycle through a number of moves if you're proficient, or you might work on a single move and be drilling the correct punishment and combo for this whole time. Now it's time to play a match. You can choose to play online against a friend or a stranger, offline against somebody, or if you can't play online or would just prefer, you could play against the AI. You might be able to get 1 or 2 matches in the 5-minute time frame, and that's fine. That's all you need. Try to use what you've practiced in earlier sections during the match, if it seems appropriate. Now the big one. Let's review a match. This is set up after the versus section with the opportunity for you to review the matches you've just played. However, doing so is your choice. You might choose instead to review footage of another player. You can view other players' replays through the game itself, or you could go externally online, such as to YouTube. While you're reviewing the match, I want you to look at the player habits on both sides. I also want you to come up with at least 3 things that each player is doing well, and 3 things that each player is doing poorly. This is to encourage you to identify strengths and weaknesses, but it's also encouraging you to improve your own awareness. Also, take note of anything you're unfamiliar with, anything that you think is worth looking more into. If you're watching a match through the Tekken 8 replay feature, you can actively jump into the situation and explore it now. Otherwise, you can jump into practice mode after and try and recreate the scenario. Thank you for watching the Nina Williams Complete Character Guide for Tekken 8. I hope that you've enjoyed the video and found some value from watching. Whether you've watched the whole thing, skipped through to key sections, or even just skipped right to the end here, I still appreciate you checking out this guide. You can find additional information in the video's description, including invites to the Nina Williams Discord server and other external resources that you might find helpful. I am a Friendly Tree, and you can find more from me relating to fighting games and Tekken on the following platforms. YouTube is where most of my content can be found. TikTok is where I post occasional highlights. X or Twitter is where I'm actively involved in many fighting game discussions. And Discord, where I'm part of the Nina Williams Discord server and my own much quieter server. As well as this, I do have a Patreon account. While there is no expectation to subscribe to my Patreon, any subscriptions are greatly appreciated, and they do assist me in being able to make more content in the future. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more. To complement this character guide, I've included the move list from Tekken 8 as well. Please watch through this at your own pace, and use the notes I've included at the bottom to help improve your understanding. If you've played Nina in earlier versions of Tekken, you will find that while they've given Nina some new moves, they've also tidied up her move list and taken out a number of strings. The way some of the moves she's retained function has changed as well, so please follow this with a fresh set of eyes. This is also a great opportunity to look for moves that you like, moves that resonate with you. Whether these moves stand out because they appear strong or simply because you think they look cool, that's fine. you're going to have a much more enjoyable time incorporating tools that you like into the game. For those of you with a keen eye, you might notice that the Tekken 8 move list is missing a few things. In particular, Nina's downforward 4 isn't listed, a 12 frame mid, meaning it's her fastest standing mid attack in the game. It also doesn't mention that every extension after 1-2 also works from a downforward 1-2 and from a back turned 1-2. Anyway, watch and focus.